biggest hurdle that True Detective Night Country was ever going to face was the inevitable comparison to the other seasons, especially the beloved first season. See, True Detective is a series where every season is its own self-contained story. And fans, like myself, were really hoping that this newest series could recapture some of that old magic. But you won't find any of that old magic here. David Blaine is nowhere to be found. Let's talk about it. Night Country follows two detectives who have a bit of an awkward history, to say the least, who must work together again to figure out what has happened to 8 scientists who have been found dead in the middle of nowhere in small town Alaska. Were they murdered? Did they freeze to death? Or was there something a little more supernatural going on here? These are the questions being asked, and perhaps they're not the right questions, as Jodie Foster's Chief Danvers might say. There's another storyline that runs through the show about the local mining company and how they're polluting the land, with the native people of the area pushing back and protesting it. On top of all that, both these detectives have these tragic events from their past that they will have to also eventually deal with. I felt like the show did a nice job juggling all of that, and yet keeping things nice and coherent for the viewer. The problem is that none of these plot lines really had a significant payoff when all was said and done. In fact, none of them really got their hooks in to begin with. I feel like that was the show's biggest issue. It could just never get above mediocrity. I don't recall any aspects of the show that were flat out bad, but there wasn't anything that was particularly well done either. For example, visually, I thought the setting of the show was awesome. Alaska is beautiful, even at night. But then there's some visual effects that were, let's just say, subpar. Thankfully, there wasn't a big need for a lot of effects in this show. There was the deer in the opening moments of the show where we see the last sunrise of the season, and a polar bear who makes a few different appearances, who looks an awful lot like the polar bear from the Coke commercials. Only now he looks like he's kind of going through a bit of a rough patch. As far as performances go, I thought there were a couple that did stand out to me, those being Chief Danvers and her deputy, Peter Pryor, who I thought had a striking resemblance to a young Matt Damon, specifically Will Hunting. But the rest of the cast, including the other main character Navarro, were adequate at best. But speaking of Jodie Foster's Chief Danvers, while her acting was solid, the character she portrays is that of this hardened, grizzled, no-nonsense, don't-take-no-shit chief of police. Now, if I'm being honest, I did find it kind of hard to take that character seriously because she's tiny and like 60 years old. That's not intimidating, at least not physically. And since she's not physically imposing, how do they go about making her seem hard and grizzled? From what I saw, by mumbling and sputtering out a never-ending stream of F-bombs. There was an attempt to inject some horror elements into the show with the more ghostly aspects of it, but that also just fell flat. I don't think it enhanced anything, but I also don't think it would have made the show any worse if it wasn't there at all. I did enjoy the various covers of songs that were played throughout the show, so it does have that. When the final credits rolled, I was a bit let down. This mostly has to do with the supernatural elements. It was ever present throughout the show, so I guess I was just expecting a larger payoff at the end that just was not there. Though I imagine there will be some folks that are going to appreciate the ambiguity of that, and that's alright. What makes the first season so revered is that Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson were absolutely electric together. Electric, lightning in a bottle. And that's something that just cannot be duplicated. I've enjoyed every season of True Detective on some level, and this is the main reason, among many, why none of them have been as good as the first. And season 1 also had this kind of just disturbing element to it throughout it, which Night Country also does not have. Maybe it's unfair to compare this season to the other seasons, but it does have new showrunners behind it now, and it does, well, show. As a standalone season and just based off its own merits, I'd say the show was okay. But when it's bumped up against the rest of the series, it's just not as good, in my opinion. I've read that the series has been greenlit for another new season with these same people running it, so I guess we'll just see what they got the next time around. Let me know what you guys thought of the show down in the comments section. I think that's all I got for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and hopefully I'll see you guys again real soon. I'm out of here.